Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the Daygame webinar. Looking forward to this one. Obviously, this is a great time of year for Daygame and something I want you guys to be doing a lot of. And obviously, if you're here, you're thinking similarly. I'd like to get out there and meet those those girls out in the sun. So what I want to talk to you about today, as the title says, is the top Daygame mistakes. And I want to be very clear on what I mean by this. This is not like the top mistakes in all of game, and this is not like the fundamentals of day game, right? This is not the thing that like will take you from having no game to having game. But what this is this is something that will take everything you do and make it better tremendously easily and tremendously efficiently. So that's what I want to talk to you guys about today, and that's going to be the general topic we're going to start with. A little bit about the structure, just as we're waiting for people to get on here. So I'm going to give you these top three day game mistakes. We'll talk about them. Then I'm going to take some Q&A regarding day game stuff in general and regarding especially the top three mistakes, but day game in general. And then I actually have something very, very special for you guys that's unique to you guys on the webinar that I want to show to you guys, and I think you guys are going to really appreciate and really like. And then we'll round it out with some more Q&A. We'll do more day game Q&A, and then at the very end, if you stay to the very end, I will take general game question and answer if you have general game questions as well. So it should be pretty informative. Definitely be ready to learn a lot. Take notes if that's your learning style. But with that said, let's dive right in. So again, we're talking about the top day game mistakes I see, specifically the top 3 day game mistakes I see over and over again. And so what are we covering? First of all, it's day game specific. It's not just not for everything. So it is very specific to day game. It's very, very actionable. It's not going to be some esoteric nonsense, not some like general, inner game thing that'll help you 3 months down the line. Is something you can do right now in your next approach, and it'll make your next approach better. This is the key thing: high return on minimal effort. And these are hacks in the truest sense of the word. And the funny thing about these, I don't know, we'll see your reaction to them is, you may be like, oh my God, this is so brilliant. This is so simple and it makes such a huge difference, which is the reaction that having seen them in field, you would say, like if you've seen students do this over and over again, having this presented in a seminar setting, there's a good chance you're going to be like, oh, that's it. That's so underwhelming. But the funny thing is that's exactly the point. The point is for it to be that way because it's so easy to do. And it's such a not a big deal thing to do that anyone can do it immediately. But then the results you're going to see from it are pretty extraordinary. So that's what we're going for, are those things that are so easy to do. They don't even require game skill really to do. They're just things that if you remember to do them, or things that if you just add them in that are very easy, will make a tremendous difference. So they truly are hacks. They're not about like going and building more skill set to do them. We'll talk about that. Obviously, I'm all about skill set in a lot of ways. But these are pure and simple, just straight up hacks. And again, we're not talking general day game mistakes. We're not talking like having a lack of premise, which is, a problem. If you don't show that it's man to woman, that's going to be a problem in your interaction. So it's not stuff like that. It's not stuff as simple as not approaching, not going out, which is probably the actual biggest day game mistake. Not stuff like being obvious, direct, giving your power away, that kind of stuff. Not stuff like not having the skill to handle shit tests or not knowing how to banter. Again, we're talking much simpler than this. Now, these are all very important skills, and these are potentially like the most important skills, some of them in all of game. So definitely we can get to all this, and we can talk about this in the Q&A and stuff like that. But again, we're talking very, very simple, straightforward hacks. I just want you to understand that's what we're going for with this, so that you understand where I'm coming from when I do present these things. They're also not super general, like bad intergame, lacking frame control, tonality inflection. Again, things that would help you a lot in general game, but they're not specific to day game, and they're not hacks in nature, right? These are things you'd have to work on. Inner game you have to work on, frame control you have to work on, tonality inflection to an extent at least you have to work on. This is stuff that, again, that you can take this literally right after this seminar and things will be better and easier, right? So is this the most effective holistic day game advice in the world? No. But is it something you can use immediately to get tremendous results? Yes. So again, that's what we're going for here. We're going for 3 huge day game hacks. So again, they're not the solution to all game, but they'll make you better with nearly zero effort. And we'll talk more about solutions to all of game later on when we talk about the question and answer and some of the other stuff I have to present to you throughout this presentation. Okay, so mistake number 1, just to get right into it, okay? Bad approach angles and bad first-second decisions. Here's the thing about game and day game in general. It's much easier to continue a good interaction than it is to revive a bad interaction. If your interaction starts off bad, it's going to be hard to make it do anything but be bad, especially, and this is very important, especially if the bad is your fault. Okay. If you walk up to a girl and you do a good approach and get a bad reaction, you can oftentimes turn that around because you've done nothing weird or creepy or wrong, and she's just wrong to give you a bad reaction. Excuse me. But if you've gone up and you've done something bad, if you've made a mistake right away on the open, then she's fully justified to give you a bad reaction. And if she's fully justified to give you a bad reaction, it's a lot harder to, to talk your way out of it. It's a lot like, for example, it's harder to talk your way out of a traffic ticket if you're actually guilty of the violation, right? So the thing is, it's a lot harder to turn something around if you actually made a mistake. And bad approach angles and bad first, second decisions are just, they're just death. They're so bad. They're so bad. And it's funny because as I've been doing programs, like live programs over the last, how long have I been doing? Like almost 3 months now. I think I've been doing live programs again. And a lot of day game on those programs. And it's funny because whenever I see one of these bad approach angles in particular, I just I cringe. I can't even, it's so bad. And it's so predictable too. Like I literally can tell the outcome of the set in the vast majority, like 90% of cases, before a single word is spoken because of the bad approach angle, right? And obviously, you don't want that for your interactions. You don't want to start off that bad. And then the other one, bad first second decisions, things like whether or not to stop the girl, whether to walk with the girl, different things like that. But mostly approach angles is what I want to talk about here. So the approach angle to avoid, please, please, please avoid approaching a girl at a 90-degree angle. Okay, now what does that mean? So I'll give you a little visual. So if the girl is walking this way, she's this hand right here, and you're walking this way, you do not want to come 90 degrees and meet her here or meet right in front of her. This angle is just death. Okay. There's various theories as to why this is that I've heard. I've heard that animals that are animals that eat plants, like plant-eating animals, don't approach at 90-degree angles. They kind of like slide up to people, and then prey animals approach at 90 degrees because that way they're coming in the animal's blind spot. So, through history and evolution in the animal kingdom, if something approaches at 90 degrees, our immediate reaction is fight or flight. Our immediate reaction is be scared, run away, etc., which obviously is not a reaction you want from girls. That's maybe the theory on it. I don't know. I don't know if that theory is accurate. I could believe it maybe. The point is, I've just seen it in practice. That when guys approach at 90 degrees, when they pop up at that angle, the girls almost always are startled, and not like kind of good startled where it's like, oh shit, like something interesting's happening, but like danger startled, right? Oftentimes you'll even see a situation. So girl's coming this way, guy walks 90 degrees, and girl will turn and walk around behind him to get away from him. And immediately the set is just over. And it's so hard to turn that around. It's so hard to turn around and immediate, no, I don't want to talk to you. You scared me, fuck off. So please, 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 please avoid this 90 degrees. The other thing that goes along with the 90 degrees, which I think is in this presentation as well, is hopping in front of the girl right away and making her change her course, right? So either coming 90 degrees or hopping in front and making the girl change the course is going to give a girl an immediate reaction that you scared her, that you're a predator, that you're not safe, that it's not an experience she wants, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, it's not easing you into the interaction. Also, please avoid the 90-degree angle. Now, how do you do that? Let's say a girl's walking this way and you happen to be at 90 degrees to her. How do you avoid approaching at 90 degrees? Well, there's a few things you can do. One is don't approach, but instead, if you're close enough, stand your ground and just talk from where you're at. Like, let's say you're only about 3 or 4 feet out of her path. You can just be there and use your words and just open verbally. And oftentimes I'll make a beckoning gesture or like a wave or something like that to get her attention, maybe even focus her attention over with my hands. But I don't actually physically walk towards her. I actually stay at that distance of a few feet, even up to a couple yards outside of her walking distance. A couple yards is a little far, but a few feet is good. And actually just use your words and beckon her over instead of approaching, because approaching at 90 degrees can be bad. So that's one way to do it. The other way to do it is actually let her walk by and then turn and like walk. My hands don't bend that way. My hands don't bend that way either. We'll walk parallel. So she's going this way, you turn and you just walk parallel to her. So instead of approaching 90 degrees, you turn and go parallel. It's really hard to bend your arm that way. You should try that sometime. But anyway, walking parallel instead of going 90 degrees much better. Also, the walk with instead of trying to stop her is oftentimes a softer stop if she's in a hurry. So that can be a way to go as well. The other one you can do if you prefer, from an approach angle standpoint, if you like to approach from behind, you can do let her walk past and then do an approach and do a tap on the shoulder, tap on the arm, and catch up with her. So any of the normal approach angles work, but oftentimes waiting for her to move on so you don't approach at the 90-degree angle, so you don't jump in front of her either, can be a good way to go. And even walking with if you need to, or just using your words and calling her over if you're close enough. Those typically are much better solutions. Excuse me. But again, I've seen this over and over and over again. And I would say like literally 90% of the time when a guy goes at a 90-degree angle, the girl gets startled or immediately put off. And it's a strong go away reaction, which is not something you want to deal with. So please, please, please avoid this approach angle. It's something guys do all the time. Do not do it. Next one, very, very key, right on the open. If you want a girl to stop, and this is a decision you want to make, like sometimes you do want the girl to stop, sometimes you want to walk with her. All right. So if you're going to walk with the girl, obviously you just walk with. When you're walking with, you want to be half a step in front, or at least even with her, so you're not behind. So if she's walking here and you're behind her, she has to turn around and look at you, and it's just weird, right? How you can't have a conversation like this. So you need to get at least even so she can have a normal conversation with you, and ideally half a step in front and walk with if you're going to walk with. But if you are going to stop her, whether you're doing tap on the shoulder, tap on the arm, and stopping her from beside or behind, or whether you're walking towards her and you're going to plant yourself and get her to stop, you must plant your feet. It's so important. If you try and get the girl to stop and your feet are moving, she will almost always keep moving. Simply by planting your feet, you can do so much more with the stop, right? So by slowing down, planting your feet and standing there, she will oftentimes stop. If you were still, sorry, I don't know what that is. Oh, okay. Sorry. Got it. I'm sorry. I saw the note from the moderator. I was trying to figure that out. Okay, got it. I got it. Yeah, guys, let's try and keep the conversation on topic for the most part in the chat, because especially I'm going to be taking questions eventually, so it's easier if we keep things a little cleaner in the chat. Sorry, and also it confuses me. In any case, so yeah, you want to plant your feet to stop them. Another little trick, if you are walking beside the girl and you're thinking maybe you're stopping her, get a little bit in front, like half a step in front, and then take a slow step or even semi-plant your feet. Oftentimes that will bring her to a stop. But one of the biggest things you can do to indicate for a girl to stop is just plant your feet. And if you can get her to stop that easily, it's a lot better than saying, hey, stop for a minute or hang on for a minute, which is all a little more needy. So if you are planning on getting the girl to stop, please plant your feet. Okay? Don't keep your feet moving. She'll see your feet moving. She'll keep walking. It happens so often. It messes up so many sets that could have become a girl stopping and talking to and going somewhere really nicely. And instead you're walking with her, you're sort of chasing, and now you have to get her stopped later. It makes things a lot harder. Please plant your feet if you want to stop the girl. Next one is not getting attention on the open. All right. Oftentimes I will see a guy walk next to a girl and try and open her. And he's too quiet. Number one, so she doesn't hear him, especially if she has headphones in or something like that you may or may not know about. But A, he's too quiet, but B, he's not actually indicating anything specific at her. So if he says, hey, excuse me, she doesn't know he's saying, hey, excuse me to her. He's not necessarily looking at her. He didn't tap her on the shoulder, didn't wave a hand at her, didn't get her attention in any way. And oftentimes I see the guy get ignored on the open because simply he didn't indicate he's specifically talking to the girl. Please do that. Please wave at her with your hands, or tap her on the shoulder or something like that, or at least get like that half a step in front and kind of like lean towards just a little bit, but make sure she knows you're specifically talking to her. If you have to repeat your opener a second time, or worse yet, even a third time or more, it makes it way more needy, way less spontaneous, way worse. Okay, so these are, again, very easy things. You don't need game skill to plant your feet. You don't need game skill to not go to a 90-degree angle, and you don't need game skill to wave at the girl or tap her on the shoulder on the open, right? These are little things that literally everybody can do that will immediately enhance your results. Okay, so that's mistake number one. And obviously, getting that bad open is going to really hurt you. Mistake number two, see this so often, standing for too long. And there's two versions of this, and both situations, both times when this will happen, it's absolutely like brutal for making it makes a good interaction a mediocre one, right? It makes an interaction that could go to an instant date, to a really solid number, to even taking a girl home, into an awkward approach that goes maybe a phone number at best and feels like a pickup the entire time. And this mistake, very simply, is standing for too long. And I'll give you two instances. The most obvious one, which I believe is first, is when the girl's seated. Yes. So when the girl is seated down, if she's at a table, on a bench, anything like that, as long as we'll do, this girl is like seated, bent over like this, and you standing, as long as she's seated and you're standing, this interaction looks like a cold approach. And it feels like a cold approach. And it will be treated like a cold approach, right? And that's not what you want. You want it to just happen. You want it to seem like you're already with the girl. It's a natural thing. You would like the girl in a cold approach to forget you're open. You'd like her to forget how the conversation started and just remember that suddenly, spontaneously, she was in a conversation with this cute guy, and then one thing led to another, and you had a great time together, and by the end of the night, you're in bed together. That's what you essentially would like. The longer you stand there, the more you're reminding her over and over and over again it's a cold approach. The more it also feels transactional and temporary. As soon as you sit down with the girl, it now doesn't feel like a cold approach anymore. It feels like you're friends, or like you came there together, or like that you're on a date. Okay, it makes a tremendous difference to the entire feeling of the whole interaction, the fact that you sat down with her. So please sit down when possible. Now, when can you sit down? Couple indicators. Number one, if the interaction just feels like it's going well in general, she's laughing at your jokes, she's responding well, giggling, showing indicators of interest in that kind of stuff, you can probably sit down. Earlier one that probably will happen usually before that one, and it should be the place that you actually sit down, is as soon as the girl asks you a question. As soon as the girl asks you a question, think of it this way. The fact that she asks you a question, she's clearly not trying to get rid of you. Because if you're trying to get rid of someone, the last thing you do is ask a question, right? So asking a question, she's asking you to keep talking. And so you can take that, ask for an answer to the question, or ask for you to keep talking for a second, as an invitation to join the conversation and actually stay in the conversation. So what I would typically do, she asks the question, be like, oh, that's interesting. And then, oh, I got to go in a minute, but anyway, or I can't stay super long, but anyway, and then sit down as you're talking. Keep talking as you sit down, answer the question. And then, it just happened. You're talking as you're sitting, you're answering the question that was asked. But by the time you're into the question, you're sitting with her, you're no longer standing. It no longer feels like a cold approach. It now feels like you're friends. It now feels like you came together. And the timing for it was where you got invited to sit down by her asking you the question. You can even act reluctant a little bit, like, I got to go in a minute, but yeah, sure, I can answer whatever. Or yeah, I got to go for a minute, but yeah, quickly. And then you do that. So you even act like you're kind of hesitant to answer the question, or like you actually are even in a hurry potentially, or something like that, or don't have that much time. But it makes the landing much, much, much smoother. It makes it feel to the girl as though you are together. So please, when the girl's seated, sit down relatively early. It makes a huge difference. As soon as a guy sits down, the interaction is like 10 times as likely to go towards instant date or sex or something like that. Literally, it's that big of a difference. And again, it takes no technical ability, right? Hey, I got to go in a minute, but anyway, sit down. That's it. Okay. Next one, when a girl is standing and stopped. So let's say you approached a girl at a street corner, right? She's waiting for a light. You're standing. You walk up. You say hi to her. She's talking. You're talking. You're standing there, and you stand there and you're talking. It's a good conversation, and the light changes, and you're talking. The light changes again, and you're talking. The light changes again. And at some point, it's weird. At some point, first of all, if you got lucky enough for the girl to stand through multiple lights with you, you should assume she likes you, because girls will usually go at the light, even if they do like you oftentimes, and they'll just expect you to walk with or continue the conversation or whatever. So if the girl actually stays standing in that situation, especially with the light, you should really assume she likes you. But even take away the traffic light. Let's say you've just been standing on a street corner, you've been standing somewhere. The longer you stand there, the more it feels like a cold approach, because you don't do that with friends, right? You don't just stand in one place on a street corner talking to a friend. You walk and talk with them while you go get a coffee. Or you walk and talk with them on the way to where you're going, or you sit down with them on a bench and actually have a real conversation, but you don't just stand there. And the longer you stand there with a stranger, the more you are reminding her that you are not friends, that you didn't come together, that this is a cold approach, which again is the opposite of what you want to do. Also, the girl probably, if she stayed and standing with you and talking to you for a while, she probably likes you and she's probably ready for something more, i.e., let's go grab a quick coffee, i.e., let's sit down on this bench. I'm going this way. Okay, well, we can walk for a few blocks and then we'll whatever arrive together, whatever the heck. But please don't stay standing. The walking with is way worse than the other ones. That one I would only do if you specifically know that you and she are going a significant distance together and you're going to get a decent amount of time in the set by walking with her. Generally, you want to do an instant date or a sit down or something like that. One little thing you can do that's kind of good in a lot of situations. If you approach the girl in an environment where there are a lot of people, like walking by or that might bump into her or something like that, oftentimes right on the open, you can kind of pull her over to the side of the sidewalk. Hey, hang on, there's a bunch of people here. I don't want you to get bumped. And you're basically telling her to come over to the side of the sidewalk with you and venue change with you over to a mini instant date. But what you're doing it with her in mind, i.e. you don't want people to run into her. It's a very easy way to actually get a little bit of an instant date in that situation, which is a very hard situation when there's a lot of people walking by on your approach. So it's a great way to salvage that one too. But the general rule here is please, please, please do not stay in one place. Interactions are either getting better or they're getting worse. If they stay stagnant too long, they get worse. And standing in one place for too long on Daygame absolutely and totally does make it worse. Okay. Final mistake, and this is there's a lot of cases of this general rule, but this is one of the biggest mistakes in Daygame for guys that are at all good. But even if you're getting any kind of results in Daygame, you probably are getting fewer results than you could because you're doing this. Okay, and the idea here is under closing. All right, you're not getting the close that you should, and the idea here is sometimes a win is actually a loss. Sometimes when you're winning, you're leaving so much of the set on the table that it's barely a win when it should have been a very big win. And here's what I mean. If I were to look at my own statistics for Daygame approaches, right? In reasonable situations where I'm not chasing after if I'm not doing some crazy shit like chasing after a girl on a rapidly moving bicycle or talking to mixed groups of 2 guys and 2 girls together that are probably all dating. Like if I'm doing reasonable approach scenarios, those ones I'm talking about are ones nobody even does. If I'm doing the approach scenarios that normal human beings do, the amount of the sets that I'm getting a number from is certainly above 80%, I would say. All right. So I'm getting a number at least from 80+% number or better from 80+% of my sets, including oftentimes girls that have boyfriends, because I'm able to finesse and finagle some numbers even there. So in general, that's a pretty high percentage, right? And then once if I get a girl's number and I get her on a date, I'm going to personally close that date probably 90%, right? And within most of those on the first date, but definitely within the date or two or within the likelihood of overall closing, 90% is a pretty good estimate there. So very high there. So very high in terms of getting the number, very high in terms of closing once I get on the date. However, if you look at the drop off between getting the phone number and getting the date, that's going to be huge. I would say there it's less than half. Right. So I'd say less than half of the numbers I get are going to actually pan out to a date. Right. And that's what someone running pretty good sets in general, getting usually pretty good buy-in, having, pretty good text game and pretty good follow-up and being in the game for a while. I'm still getting less than half there. So if you look at my drop off, where am I mostly losing the girls? I'm mostly losing the girls between when I got the number and when I got them on the date. So that means that anything I can do to increase the percentage of a date is massively useful. And in fact, even if it lowered my percentages, if suddenly instead of 80% getting a number or better, I was closing 70%, but if instead of half of them dropping off, I got 2/3 of them to stay on, right? If I only lost a third, then in the follow-up process, my results would be massively, massively better. And then on top of which, if instead of getting the number and then having to go on a date later and I get that over half drop off, if I can take the girl on an instant date right then and there, well, that's 100% I got onto a date of the girls that I got on an instant date. So the point is, by taking this easy victory of just getting a phone number and a phone number that might be rushed or weak or something along those lines, it feels like a win, right? And you walk away feeling like you won. This is why guys do this, I think. And there's a very strong, I'll talk about in a second, there's a very strong psychological urge to do this. But your win, you walk away with your win, that's actually a loss, right? Where you could have gotten the real win. You could have gotten an instant date, or you could have gotten a much solider number or a number with more positives around it with just slight risk. But instead you walked away with the safe number that is going to safely flake on you. All right. So this is what we're talking about, is under closing, not getting the full closes that you could. So let's talk about the different instances. Well, actually, let's first talk about the psychology of this, and then we'll talk about the instances of why do guys do this. It's because after walking away from an approach, it feels either good or bad, right? It feels good because the number feels like a victory. It feels like you won something. But hang on one second. Drop something here so I can communicate. So getting the number feels really good, and so you walk away feeling like a win, feeling like you won something, and that's great. Whereas if you were to try and push the number and you got a little rejection at the end, it would feel negative or like a loss. Or if you pushed and didn't get a close at all, it would feel like a big loss. So you'd walk away feeling negative rather than positive. And there's not really degrees to that, right? The difference between a number feels good and a solid number feels still good and an instant date still feels good. It's just you're getting endorphins in your body. It all just feels generally good. And so because we make our decisions emotionally, it's very easy to take that safe victory and feel good about it in the moment rather than work on what's actually going to get us a result. Okay. So the first version of this is getting a number instead of an instant date. Okay. In general, in Daygame, if you are having a good interaction, you should be thinking first and foremost instant date and take the girl home. That should be in your mind. How do I get this girl on an instant date? How do I get this girl home? If it's going well, that's the go-to. Only if you have a reason not to, do you not do that. So if you ask the girl what she's doing and it turns out she's on her way to like an important job interview for her dream job that she can't miss, or she'll like not get the job, you're probably not going to instant date that girl. In that case, you may have to get a number, right? Or if she has like plans with a bunch of her friends that she just absolutely can't get out of, et cetera, you're probably getting a number instead of instant date. To be fair, if she has plans in general, oftentimes you're taking a number. But if you ask the girl what she's doing and she's just shopping for the day, by all means, instant date her. If you ask the girl what she's doing and she's a tourist in town just looking around and exploring the city, please instant date her and please take that girl home, right? So you want to be finding this out, and your default idea of if the set's going well should be instant date, and I will settle for a number if need be, right? I'll settle for the number if the instant date isn't on, but first and foremost, I am trying for the instant date. I'm going for the instant date because, again, I'm going to lose the majority of girls between getting the number and getting the date. So I have a very strong incentive to get the date right here and now instead. So please instant date first. Next one, and this is huge these days. First of all, I have a huge pet peeve about guys getting Instagrams instead of numbers. I really, really do. I understand that Instagram is something a lot of people use, and I understand it's a communication tool. And I also understand that if you have a good Instagram, it can make you look good. But number one, a lot of guys do not have good Instagrams. They're getting Instagrams to poor Instagrams or very mediocre, average Instagrams that make them look worse than they actually are, which is really stupid. But even with a good Instagram, there are benefits to a phone number over an Instagram. And here are a couple of benefits. Number one, if you have a phone number and you text a girl, you know she got a notification on her phone. You know she's going to see it, and you know that there's a likelihood she'll actually respond if she likes you. Whereas in Instagram, it can get buried. She either doesn't have notifications on. Maybe she takes a while to add you back and she misses your message if it's a short timeline to meet up with a girl, or it just gets buried amidst a bunch of other messages. Who knows? Or she misses the notification. She just swipes through all her Instagrams and doesn't see you. Different things can happen. So number one, the number is a better method of communication. Number two, the number means something different. I'm sure tons of you, I actually this is a good little poll for the chat. How many of you guys in the chat have ever asked a girl for her number and she says she'll give you Instagram or Facebook or social media instead? Tell me, has that ever happened to you? Right? That's probably happened. Put a Y for yes in the chat if that's ever happened to you. Okay? I want to see how much that's happened, because that if you're going out at all, that's probably happened a ton. Right? And then the second question I will ask you is how often have you ever asked a girl for social media and she says she offers her phone number instead or whatever, right? It's much less likely. And if it did happen, it probably happened in a case where the girl was really, really on and you were being stupid just asking for the social media, right? Give me a question mark if that one's happened to you, where she like upgrades you. You know, she upgrades you to the phone number. That probably doesn't happen, right? Much less, yeah, I see this kind of stuff, right? Not happening, right? So the point is, in the girl's mind, right? In the girl's mind, yeah, the question mark's coming. Yeah, that doesn't, yeah, okay. It's happened a couple times. Okay, cool. The point is, in the girl's mind, the number is a bigger deal, right? Here's another big one too. This is like the ultimate test in some ways. How often when a girl has a boyfriend, she'll give you the social media but won't give you the phone number, right? Because it's just less personal or less of a big deal, or she can explain away a social media to the boyfriend that it's not a big deal, but she can't explain away a phone number because the phone number still means more, right? The phone number still means that that she actually liked you, that it's actually for a romantic purpose, that it's actually for communication, those kind of things. Okay, so just that in mind, right? It means something different. It actually will be communicated with differently. If you want to get the Instagram, by all means do, but my recommendation is get the phone number and then the Instagram. Hey, how do I get in touch with you? Okay, yeah, Snapchat, same. Snapchat and Instagram, same thing. That's fine. That's same kind of stuff. That's fine. But basically number and then social media. So here's what you do. Hey, how do I get in touch with you? Okay, cool. I'll take your number. Oh, by the way, do you have Instagram also? Okay, cool. Yeah, that's sometimes easy too, or that's sometimes a good way to communicate. Well, why don't we do that as well? So you can get both if you want, but please, please, please get the number. It's just better. The Instagram's good for long lead. The Instagram's good for turning around flaky numbers and flaky girls that are not good sets, because if you have a good Instagram, they can see you over time and interact with you and maybe even stalk you online, etc. Right? If you have a good Instagram. But the phone number is the best for meeting up that day or the next day, because you know your notifications will be seen. You know that you're going to be able to get in touch with her. So please, 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 if you're going to do it, just get both. Okay. Next one is rushing the close out of nervousness. I see this so often too. So let's say you're in an interaction and it's going overall relatively well. And then you're like, okay, but I don't know what to do next. So it's going well, but you don't know what to do next. So many guys, what they will do is they will rush and be like, okay, cool. Well, before it gets bad, let me take your number. They don't say it like that, right? But they're thinking in their head, before this gets ruined, let me take the number and run away. And usually what they do on top of it to make it worse is they take the number and then immediately run away. Be like, okay, cool. Yeah, I got to go. What's your number? Okay, cool. Well, good to meet you. Bye. And there's nothing beyond that. Like, they got the number and then the first thing they did was run away, which makes it look like, hey, I wanted the number. I got my number. I achieved my objective. Now I'm gone, which is not good at all. Number two, it looks nervous. And number three, it doesn't really engender this idea that you guys are going to have fun hanging out again in the future, right? As soon as you get the girl's number, there's been a decision made that you and the girl like each other. Maybe you're going to hang out. From that moment onward, the interaction you have is with that frame in mind, the idea of you guys hanging out. And so she's now assessing what it's going to be like to potentially hang out with you. So given that, you want what happens right after the number to be a positive experience, and you want it to cement that idea that you're comfortable together, you'll have a good time together, etc. Okay, so very, very important. Don't rush away after getting the number, and don't just rush the number, okay? If at first you are super nervous and you're a beginner, this is actually okay to do. But once you're comfortable and set, once you're not nervous and set all the time, then you want to try and continue the interaction, or at the very least do what I call fake qualification. So instead of rushing away and getting just like, hey, what's your number? Goodbye. At least be like, all right, so you seem cool, but I'm curious. Tell me something else. All right, yeah, you seem all right. I guess I'll take your number. Something like that. At least have some kind of qualification. At least have some kind of reason you got the number beyond just because she was attractive, because you want it to appear like it's not just for sex and not just for her looks, okay? So please don't rush to the number. Please don't rush away from the number out of nervousness. If, again, you've never closed, you've never gotten a number, by all means, just ask for the number when you're nervous. It's fine. But once you've done this a few times, once you're getting comfortable and set, please try and go for a little bit more. Please try and get a quality close that will lead to a non-flaky number instead of just getting that flaky number and calling it a victory. Because, again, getting flaky numbers is not a win. It's a temporary feel-good. We talked about running away right after, kills the vibe, missed opportunity. Another thing that I didn't talk about here is if you do run away right after, you're missing the opportunity to set up a plan or set up scheduling, something along the lines of that, right? So let's say you just got the number. Well, now is a great time to suggest, getting a drink. Oftentimes I'll actually suggest the drink before getting the number, or just suggest a plan before getting the number, so it's already baked in. But you want to have a vague plan in mind, even if you don't end up doing that plan. If you end up getting a number and then saying, hey, we'll get together for a drink sometime, even if you text and you don't bring up the drink and you just make different plans, the fact that when you got the number, it was within the context or within the idea that you're going to get a drink together, it makes it seem like it's for meeting up. It makes it seem like it's for going somewhere, right? And that will help regardless of if you even follow through with that plan. So it's a good opportunity to set up a tentative plan right then and there. And even if that plan doesn't happen, you're not attached to it. You're not even trying to make that plan happen. But the fact that you set up the tentative plan, it makes it more likely you will get an actual plan down the road, and maybe that plan. The other thing is, even if you don't set up a tentative plan, you can at least take that time after getting the number to find out her schedule. Does she work during the day or at night? Is she free in the evenings? Is she free in weekdays or weekends? This kind of information, which you can find out by just asking a couple of questions about her life or asking about her availability and that kind of stuff, is going to make it massively easier when it comes to texting. It'll help you with when to text the girl, so she's actually going to see your text and respond immediately instead of seeing it 6 hours later, in the middle of other texts, or she'll see it in the middle of her workday when she can't respond to it, right? Or when you find out her schedule, you can find out whether it makes sense to ask her out on a weekday or weekend. So now you're not getting rejected for a Wednesday night because she's busy, when you could have just asked for like a Friday night or a Sunday night or something like that instead and had it work out. So you're missing a lot of opportunities if you run right after. One, the opportunity to set a tentative date or even a real date. Two, the opportunity to find out information that's going to be useful to you in getting the girl out. Keep in mind, the goal of the approach is not to get a number, it's to get a girl, right? It's to get a girl on a date, a girl in your bed, a girl in a relationship. So getting a number that doesn't lead to that is kind of pointless. Excuse me, guys. Okay, so now these things. Will these things that I just taught you, will they make awful, terrible game good? Like if you're just like toxic to women and turning girls off and no fun and scary and creepy, will these things help you? Not very much, right? They're not going to suddenly take an awful, incredibly not going anywhere approach and make it into, your James Bond all of a sudden. But any remotely good effort you are going to make, this will make it massively better. Not getting an immediate blowout because of your approach angle will make your approach massively better. Whatever natural charisma you had, whatever natural things you bring to the table will be presented in a much better light with those. If all of a sudden, when you get your phone numbers, now instead of like the majority of them flaking, you're able to get, 2/3 or like 3 times more responding to you, or like, a third less not responding to you, or whatever the ratios end up being. If you're able to get a better ratio there, that's going to be probably the ratio that's going to make the biggest difference in your success, is how often do you take your good sets all the way to a date, whether it be through a number or an instant date or whatever, right? So these are the types of things that are so easy to do. They're so simple. They are not complicated. They don't require game skill. They don't require charisma. They don't require like, any kind of brilliance. They just require, you check the right boxes. Make these a habit. Make these procedure in how you do your approaches. And with the exact same game level, without even making your game better, you're going to already get significantly better results. And we're talking like, measurably better, like clearly measurably better results with no added skill. Okay, so what I want to do right now for a little bit is I will take some questions on these specific things that we talked about, and a little bit on Daygame in general. So I'll take questions for a little bit here, and then, like I said, I have something special to show you guys, and then we'll take some more questions at the end. So I'm going to kind of start thumbing through the chat here. I am going to go through questions. I will scroll down the chat, but just being honest with you, I'm going to get questions sort of at the top of the chat, more likely first. So if you did ask your question before, don't be shy about re-asking it. Please don't copy paste and ask your question a bunch of times in a row. Our moderators will flag that kind of stuff. I don't want that kind of stuff where it keeps me from being able to utilize the chat. But if you do need to re-ask your question, put your questions towards the top. I'll try and get to a lot of them, and hopefully some that seem like good questions and stuff like that. Okay. I'm trying to read this one here. That's not a Daygame question. All right, so it's an interesting question. How to approach Daygame in a country where the men are super masculine, and he says Israel in particular. Well, so I will come right out and say I have never been to Israel, so I don't know specifically exactly how things are in Israel, although I have talked to Israeli girls and dealt with Israeli guys in the United States. So if that's similar, I can deal with that. And I can talk about men being super masculine or alpha or even confrontational and that sort of stuff. The more you anticipate something confrontational coming up, the more you anticipate objections, those kind of things, the more you should gear your approach to be more social first and sexual later, right? So, and in particular in Daygame, When you do see girls with groups of people, they're usually friends. And you do see girls with groups of guys, they're usually boyfriends, friends, brothers, something like that. So it's usually someone that is actually, part of their social group and someone who has some social capital with them and someone with whom they do care a little bit about things. So with that in mind, it's important that you do treat the men in the group with respect. Now, you don't want to treat them with deference and be kissing their asses and being beta to them, but you should be just social and polite. And again, if there is more of this kind of protective, I'll stand up for the woman, I'll get in your face kind of vibe, you want to be much more social and talk to everybody in the group. There's this phrase with guys that say guys are just ugly girls, right? It's very true. If you get the guys on your side, if you're friendly with the guys, that works really well. Also, if the way that you approach the girls, the way that you quote unquote hit on the girls is not directly hitting on them, but more sort of teasing them and lighthearted and fun, that will tend to do better for you. What the heck? That will tend to do better for you. But it will, sorry, I got thrown off by something there. But so yeah, if you're nice with the guys and more sort of like chill with them, you'll do a lot better. And then you can always get more man to woman later. And also you're more subtle when you're being premised in the negative than when you're premised in the positive. So those are all adjustments you want to make in general. Next question. This guy says, I can only approach girls from behind with the shoulder tap. How do I approach from the front? So first of all, if you do have a preferred approach, it's okay to make that a go-to, right? So ironically, one of my coaches who's extraordinary in Daygame, one of the best I've ever seen in the world at Daygame, which is JP, he actually does the opposite. Like he likes approaching from the front way more than approaching from behind. And so he actually, in some cases, will actually run way ahead of the girl and come back just so we can approach from the front in certain cases because he thinks it'll be a better approach angle. And I totally agree with that because approaching from the front is slightly better and easier if you do it the right way. But the reason I don't do that, by the way, is that if you go do that, oftentimes the girl will turn into a shop or will stop or something will change where it makes it so you don't actually end up approaching her at all. So it's the downside of trying to make the approach slightly better. And then sometimes you lose the opportunity to approach at all. So I usually just approach from whatever angle I'm at. But I totally understand the idea of going and getting in front, and it totally makes sense. And it's smart as far as it goes. So if there is a particular type of approach you're better at or you like better, try and maximize that. Try and use the type of approach that you like, and try and use the type of approach that you do natively. How to approach from in front, though, it's worth noting. The most important thing with approaching from the front is to have distance, right? So if you're walking towards the girl and she's walking towards you and you approach right here and she takes one step and she's past you, well, that's, you only had like a fraction of a second to convey your personality, a fraction of a second to get her attention. And that's going to be a little bit problematic. Whereas if you had more time because you're talking and you have distance, that's going to work considerably better. So that's something I would strongly consider. As far as that goes, is distance is number one. You would like to actually get in her way, but in her way from far enough in front that you're not actually in her way. Because if you were to step in front of her like a step in front, she's going to be, it's like the 90-degree angle thing, right? She's going to be very put off by it and very annoyed by it, and it's not going to work very well. But if instead you're, say, 3 yards away, like 10 feet away or something like that, there's plenty of space, plenty of time, so you're not actually in her way. But you are in her path, so she has to react to you. She can't just full ignore you. So that tends to be very optimal. Generally, you want to, because you're going to try and stop her from the front, usually you want to bring your feet to a stop a little bit in advance, and you want to kind of slow down and plant, and usually I'll wave at her or do something to get her attention as I do it. So that tends to be my methodology for stopping from the front. This is an interesting question. I was in Barcelona recently and found that many girls speak only poor English. What do you do in those situations? Okay, so first of all, I will tell you that while it is true that some girls speak only poor English or poor whatever language it is that you're dealing with in that particular country or whatever language you speak, it is true that is the case sometimes. However, the better your approach is, the English ability of the country seems to improve as your approach improves. So I will say that if I'm doing approaches in English and I have students doing approaches in English, somehow it seems like more girls know how to speak English for me than know how to speak English for my students. So, So number one, there's a kind of a relativity there of there's don't speak English and then unwilling to make the effort to speak English, and then speak English, but just am giving you an excuse to fuck off. So there's like kind of 3 tiers to it, right? So there's the ones that actually don't speak English, and no matter who, it's going to be very difficult. There's the ones that could speak English, they wanted to, but they're not willing to put in the effort. And there's the ones that absolutely do speak English, but don't want to tell you they speak English. And you're going to get a greater percentage the better your approach is. So that's the first thing, is approach better, right? If you're getting that the majority of the time, it's a problem. And in Barcelona, most girls will speak English in most cases. To be fair, I've been there when it's been more touristy in Barcelona. I don't know, with like travel restrictions and stuff, if there are fewer tourists there now. But in general, I've been to Barcelona before, and I know girls in Barcelona speak English well enough. I have not had a huge problem with that, where it's like impeding my ability to do game. Now, occasionally you'll get the girl who just doesn't speak, but it's pretty rare. And funny enough, the girls who don't speak English, it's not even girls who speak Spanish. It's like the French girls, because they just refuse. Like, I do not speak English. And then they're like, I will not even speak Spanish in Barcelona. Fuck you. I speak French everywhere, right? But anyway, whatever. I don't hate French people, but it is a funny thing that French girls do that, where they're like very, you will speak my language, damn it. But anyway, neither here nor there. The point is, if you open better, you'll get more of girls speaking your language. If they really truly don't speak your language, then what you need to do is just say the same things you would, but slow them down, simplify them, stay confident, stay calm. And you want to take the frame that because you speak English, you're of higher value and you're helping out her, this girl who doesn't speak English, right? So you're slowing down for her benefit. You're helping her out. This poor girl can't communicate with the world. You're helping her communicate. You're assisting her. That's kind of the frame you take. And then you avoid complicated words, avoid long, complicated phrases. Once you get a decent interaction, oftentimes, if their English is really poor, you may need to break out Google Translate or do something like that. And actually, funny enough, gaming over Google Translate is brilliant, because if you're messaging the girl and she's messaging you back, there's a lot more thought given to everything that's said, and there's a lot more investment with everything that's said. And every time she messages, she's investing heavily in you. So it actually can go really well, really quickly. And you can continue a much longer interaction with less verbal content, because you don't have to talk as much, because each communication takes longer. So Google Translate, if you can get the girl to actually commit to it, to like sit down with you, go on a date and translate back and forth and talk, or do a combination of like talk the best you can and translate, it actually is really, really good overall. It's just getting over that initial hurdle of getting her to stay long enough to actually communicate that can be the issue. But most of the not speaking English thing, in most cases, especially in a city like Barcelona that is a touristy city and pretty well educated, a lot of people for speaking English, probably if you're getting that a lot, part of it's your own making. Okay, so here's a question about phone numbers, since we talked about that a lot. Do you give your phone number and have the girl put her number in, or do you take the number? Either one is absolutely fine. My only criteria is that I want to get the girl's number, because even if the girl really likes you, if you give her your number, oftentimes they just won't follow up because they get nervous or they get shy, or they're worried about being slutty, or they, who knows, right? So basically, you definitely want to get the girl's number, and you also would like to get your number in her phone so she knows who you are, so she's not confused later on. That doesn't have to happen right away, but the first text should do that, and the first text should be soon enough after that it's highly likely she still remembers who you are. You don't want to be, you should be taking the assumption that you're the coolest guy who she gave her number to that day, because you did a good set and had a good interaction. So therefore, you don't want to be lumped in with any other random guy she's given her number to, or any other random guy, especially if you like waited a day or two to text, any other random guy she's given her number to over multiple days, or even over like the last week or so, that could be suddenly texting her. So you do want to trust your own good interaction, get your number in her phone, and do something like that. But yeah, in terms of how you exchange the numbers, doesn't matter as long as you achieve those two things. Another great question. How much Keno is enough for Daygame? And by the way, anyone who doesn't know what Keno is, congratulations. That means you weren't in the pickup community in the year 2000. But Keno basically is just a shorthand for, it means kinesthetic. It means basically touching. Basically, the question is, how much should you be getting physical or touching the girl during Daygame? And the answer is much less than during night game. So there are 3 different ways to escalate in general. Okay. There is escalating physically, which is Keno, right? Escalating verbally, the topic of conversation being more sexual or being more about you and her together, those kind of things. So that's a second sort of escalation verbally. The third escalation is the logistical one, right? So logistical escalation is moving from scenario to scenario, setting to setting, that kind of a thing. So that's something you definitely want to do there, is is that there's three different types of escalations, right? In night game, you're going to have a lot more of the physical escalation. In day game, it's going to be more of the verbal escalation and the logistical escalation. And then the physical escalation in day game happens once you're on an instant date, usually, or once you're in a more secluded environment, more private place. Because oftentimes in day game, there are like, there's like kids around and families around and stuff like that. And so it's not really a conducive environment for getting very physical. So typically you don't want a lot of physicality in day game. If it's just on, if the girl's getting very physical with you or cuddling up to you, by all means, that's fine. But it's not something you need to be initiating nearly as much in day game as you would in, say, night game or something else like that. Someone said, this is an interesting one. I don't know where that one went. Someone said, well, I read the question and I lost it, but I'll answer it the way as per what I read. Someone said, how do you approach a girl wearing a mask? So if you see a girl wearing a mask, typically just approach her the exact same as you would if she didn't have the mask on. Maybe give like a little more distance and maybe avoid the tap on the shoulder, maybe wave into the tap or something like that, just so you're not invading her space in case she has an issue with it. But most of the people that are wearing masks these days, in my experience personally, having been doing day game on programs, day and night game actually on programs for the last few months, most of the girls who are wearing masks are wearing it for the fact that they've been told to wear it, not because they want to wear it anymore, especially considering that, speaking to the United States, but I think in a lot of developed countries, a lot of people have been vaccinated, a lot of people are kind of over it, etc. So in many cases, she's not as concerned as much as she's just following the rules. And if you just act normal, it should be totally fine. And I've seen some interesting cases, right? So I remember on one of the earlier programs that I did when I was coming back and things were just kind of coming back out again. One of my students approached a girl in a mask, and she went to shake her hand, and she's like, no, don't shake hands, whatever, right? But then he just like shrugged and kept talking to her, which is good for him. Like very, very good for him. He kept talking to her, just was chill about it. And then a few minutes later, they talked, had a good time, and they talked about dancing. And then he invited her to dance. They were in a nightclub. They started dancing, and then she took her mask off, and they were dancing, and they hung out for a long period of time, and they made out. So she was scared of COVID with a handshake with a stranger, but with a guy she liked and thought was attractive, she was willing to kiss him. So, you could do the math on that one. So the point there is to be cool, buy yourself time, and just assess things and find out what her comfort level is and find out where she's at. But these days, things for most people are pretty different than they would have been, say, for example, a year ago. Where I think a year ago, a lot of people actually were legitimately scared and legitimately trying to be safe. Whereas now I think a lot of people are just doing it because they were mandated. And they've been vaccinated. They feel totally personally safe and whatever. And if a girl does feel unsafe, she'll let you know. Right. So don't cross boundaries. Don't be pushy. Don't break restrictions and things like that, but give the girl an opportunity if she wants to be social with you to be social and to see where things go. That would be my my recommendation as far as that. Here's interesting. What would you say about winging during day game? If you have a friend with you and you happen to meet two girls, that's awesome. And that can be one of the most fun experiences, especially you meet two girls that are doing nothing for the day. You guys can make that a group date, and you can have one of the most fun days you've ever had in your life. Everybody gets laid at the end. It's a beautiful thing. So it's great when it happens. But excuse me. Number one, winging only really matters for two sets. And so in day game, you'll meet a lot more one sets, girls just by themselves. And then you'll meet some bigger groups and different things like that. But the two set thing isn't quite as important as it would be like in like a night game setting, especially because oftentimes the girl will have other issues, i.e. Logistical stuff, that kind of stuff, that keeps her from being pulled and makes it just a number, that kind of thing. So that can be a difference. The big thing though with wing and day game, while it's a good idea, is it's probably just not going to happen practically because you're not walking through your day with a wingman all the time, right? Most of the time you're going to be not happening to be with your wingman when you meet a girl, and so you need to do most of your day game without a wing. That's mainly the difference, is that's just going to happen. And girls oftentimes won't be with her friends either, so the wing will be useless on a single girl. All right, I'm going to take a couple questions here really, really fast. I'll go bang through a couple questions. Then I have, like I said, this special thing I want to show you guys, and then we'll come back around to some more questions. So let me bang through some quick ones here. Yeah, overall vibe during the day. I notice when I get nervous, I start talking faster and the pace of the conversation seems to be potentially too fast. Absolutely. Funny enough, guys usually talk fast to keep the girl there, like because they're afraid she's going to leave. And ironically, if you were to slow down and be more comfortable, that's the exact thing that would make her stay, right? You being comfortable and being relaxed will make her stay more. Whereas when you're rushed, that actually maybe makes her leave. It makes her think that like you have an agenda or you're really into something, or things like that are not so good. And in general, the rule for game is anything you do to make it not awkward will tend to make it awkward. Right. So talking too fast to like get it out there or to like because you think she's going to leave oftentimes has the opposite effect. Banter. How do you avoid interview mode and what should it mainly consist of? So stories, teases, things that offer value are really, really good. And that should be your default setting. You should learn to communicate that way. However, if you occasionally slip up and do ask logical questions, what I would really recommend is getting off those questions back to good content very quickly. So there's an exercise I teach a lot. It's called question, answer, tease. You can practice this on your own. You practice out of field and get really good at it. Ask a boring question, get back a boring answer, and then take something in that boring question, use it to tell a story, have an opinion, or tease, right? Because it's okay to ask a question as long as you follow it up with genuine value offering conversation. But it's not okay to ask question, and take value. So one, you want to avoid questions in general, but two, if you do ask a question, take their answer and make it a point to offer value on their answer, whether that, again, is a story, an anecdote, an opinion, a tease, something that offers value. Do not stack questions. One question's fine. Stacked questions are typically not. All right, let's see here. How can I get better at conversations and escalating over conversations? Those are two different things. But the best way to get better at conversation is to, one, trust yourself and believe in yourself because you have years of conversational experience. Two, what I just said before, which is take this mentality of offering value when you talk. And three, and this is interesting, get genuinely curious about the other person, right? If you're going through the motions and asking questions that are boring to you and not caring and just throwing shtick at the other person, it's not going to work very well. But if you get genuinely curious about the other person, that will typically make for really good conversation. As far as escalating over conversations, the biggest thing I would say to you is two things. One, know that you need to do it, right? Know that if you go long enough without escalating, it's going to go nowhere. And so it's a dead conversation if you don't escalate, right? You're worried that your escalating will kill it. Well, if you don't escalate, 100% it will. So that's number one. And then number two is understand that you don't need a context to tease or to escalate. It can be random. So you can have your normal content of the conversation, random tease, back to normal content, random tease, back to normal content. That's completely fine. It doesn't have to have this like perfect continuity and be like really well scripted and like connected and all that kind of stuff. Randomness is okay. And if the set needs a tease, give it a tease. If the girl needs to be flirted with, flirt with her. Even if it seems out of context, it still works just fine. It's most important to feed the set what it needs than it is for the set to have a particular flow to it. All right. So with that said, guys, I'm going to show you guys this special thing I have for you guys, and this is again as a thank you for you guys being on the webinar, and because that it's something I don't offer to just anybody else, but I think you're going to really like it. It's pretty awesome. And then we'll go back, like I said, to some more Q&A. We'll do some more day game Q&A, and then I'll take some general Q&A as well. So let's go through this really quickly, and then we'll go. All right. So to start off with, I have a question for you guys, having watched this so far. And that question is, are you guys learning from this? Are you guys enjoying it? Are you getting something out of it? Hopefully it's the case that you are, right? Tried to give you guys a lot of good content. So hopefully you guys are learning from it and you're enjoying and you're getting your questions answered and that kind of stuff. So here's a not so secret to game, which is that the way you get better at game, it's continuous. It's not something that like you go out one day and go super hard and then suddenly you get better. It's something where you get a little bit better each day, right? You get, if you get 1% better day by day, week by week, month by month, success doesn't happen overnight. It happens, again, little by little, right? There's this thing you've probably heard this from me a million times. I'll probably say it a million times more. If you get 1% better every day over a course of a year, you'd be 3,800% better, 38 times better by the end of the year, right? So it's just about that consistent improvement over time. It's not something you do all in a day or all in a week. And you get better how? By figuring, and it's not like just going out gets you better. You have to go out the right way. You have to be smart about it, right? So you get better by figuring out your sticking points. So for example, if you have trouble opening, fix it. Trouble hooking, fix it. Making conversation, something you can work on. Creating attraction, absolutely, there are solutions for that, right? So you need to identify the sticking points and then work specifically on them. You don't just work randomly. You work with a program, you work with a plan. And then as well as major inner game sticking points, how you view yourself, how you view the world, how you view girls, all these kind of things all definitely contribute to your learning, and you need to be improving them little by little over time. And you get better. How? By taking actions and getting feedback. So you go out in the field, you practice a little bit, you try some things, and then you evaluate. Did they work? Did they work? What worked well? What didn't work? What do I need to keep doing? What do I need to throw out? And you try and do it a little bit better the next time, a little bit better the next time. And even if it fails the next time, you learned because you tried something new that failed. It's like the scientific method, right? You try experiments, some fail, some succeed. In game, we're lucky that more will probably succeed than fail, as opposed to in science where more fail than succeed. But regardless, you're trying new things, you're seeing if it works, and then you're implementing those new things in your game. And you're getting better incrementally until you are where you want to be in game, right? That's how you build a skill set. And that's what game is. It's a skill set. It's something that, like anything else, it's built up of a series of sub-skills, a series of experiences, and then you apply it and you can be consistent and see measurably different results. However, too many guys do it alone. And that's really stupid is one way to put it. It's very difficult. It's much, much more difficult to learn game alone than it is to learn game with help, right? So if you're taking action, why would you do it all by yourself and try and figure things out and reinvent the wheel and bang your head against the wall when you can do it the easy way with the help of, for example, a mentor like myself, or with the help of my coaches who have been in game for years and years and years, right? And with the help of a community of guys who are all going out, learning, struggling with the same things you're struggling with. And a lot of them have already achieved the things you're trying to achieve, and they can just tell you. Instead of you having to do it the hard way, they can just absolutely tell you. So this is just a much smarter way to learn. And look, your time is valuable, right? If you're going to go out for hours and hours and hours, those hours are valuable. Those hours are your life that you're running out of. Those hours are money you could be working, your business. Those hours are valuable. Make the most of them. Don't waste them. All right. And so you want to have the right resources, right? And so I've been thinking for a long time about creating a program to do exactly this stuff, to help guys who are actively going out in the field to get better faster, to give them the resources they need, including the things I talked about, myself, my coaches, the proper resources, a community, all those kind of things. And so with that, I want to introduce to you Todd V's mentorship program. And so this is a mentorship program. It's designed to get you growth. That's it. It's designed to get you good, pure and simple. And the idea is, again, that consistent growth, that 1% or hopefully more than 1% at a time, accumulating over time, becoming an exponential growth to where you look back and you can't even imagine where you've come from, right? And get you consistent results. And growth is going to be built on, again, what I talked about: access to me, access to my coaches, access to answers to your questions, and access to learning resources. So what's inside this program? First of all, the biggest thing is consistent weekly access to me. If you've enjoyed this webinar and getting some answers from me, getting some theory from me, imagine this webinar, but much, much, much smaller. Currently, we're talking about like 2%, maybe the attendance or something like that, or something along those lines. I don't know, maybe 5%. Look at the numbers. But anyway, the point is like much, much, much smaller, to where you actually are asking the questions directly to me, actually getting direct answers to your specific questions each and every week from me specifically, right? So that literally you go out on the weekend, you have an experience, you can ask me about it, get feedback, so you don't have to bang your head against the wall for days or weeks or whatever. You're getting that feedback. And all year long, like over and over again, right? So the way we're going to do this, 4 open live question and answer calls with me each month. Obviously, like I said, it's me, you, and other guys with similar sticking points, much smaller than this call, up to 2 hours per call. And I make sure that I'm answering the questions on the call. Typically we do them on the weekends, and we do them at around this, actually this time or a couple hours earlier than this time. Usually I think we're doing them around 11 to 1 Eastern, something like that, which works basically for the United States and Europe as well. So midday weekend times to work for as many people as possible. So you get that consistent feedback on a weekly basis. You get to talk to me. These calls are also recorded. I encourage you to be on them live and ask your questions live. But if you ever do have to miss them, you will get the recording and you will get the answers to your questions in a recorded form as well. So highly recommend coming out, doing that. Obviously, getting your questions answered is hugely valuable. You can ask me anything, right? As long as it's vaguely related to game. You can ask me technical game, sticking points, inner game stuff, whatever is on your mind. If you have stuff, dating, relationships, even to an extent, I'll take general life success and stuff, as long as it's vaguely related to game. But really, game specifically, ask me absolutely anything, right? Anything else that's on your mind. And the key thing here, or a big thing here, is 100% uncensored. I can actually say absolutely what I want to. It's not YouTube. I won't get, I won't be taken off the platform for saying the wrong thing or anything along the lines of that. So there are certain topics, for example, that I don't talk about a lot on YouTube, even though I don't think there's anything wrong with them, but it's just a sensitive platform. So for example, I don't talk a lot about things like how exactly to take girls home. I don't talk about escalation back at your place, different things like that I would not talk about on YouTube. Maybe I could tell some not quite PG rated stories that I might not be able to get away with on YouTube, stuff like that. So there definitely is a depth of material that you get in this kind of platform that you wouldn't get in a public forum. And again, it's done in a small group weekly webinar. Next up, we have a membership portal, which is an online site. This is your site for accessing pretty much everything game, comprised of a few different things. First of all, we have Ask a Coach. So if you have a sticking point, you want an answer from someone, not just your buddy who doesn't know, not just your friend in the next cubicle, but you want an answer from someone who actually has advanced game, has been studying game for a long time. My coaches that have been working with me for years are going to be on here. I will be actually paying them to answer questions. As of right now on this forum, I'm actually answering every single question myself. But over time, we're going to have myself or my coaches answering every single question. So yeah, I'm literally paying these guys to answer your questions, whatever your sticking points are, working through getting you answers on a regular basis from someone who actually knows. And these are guys you might know. Like if you've heard of JP, you may have seen his infield footage in the system. If you haven't, check it out. He's also, I think, on some YouTube videos currently still. If you want to check out Matt, he's in the Night Game YouTube video. Really excellent guy. You can also check out some of his posts on the Todd V Dating blog. Or James, you can check out a lot of his posts on the Facebook group. He has some amazing, really valuable posts on there and stuff like that. So these are the guys. They've been traveling around the world with me for years, coaching, getting really amazing results, and also coaching students and seeing what works with students for quite some time. These are the guys we're talking about to help you guys out. Beyond that, we have a mini course library. So we have courses to get you started and get you up to a pretty damn good level at day game, night game, online game. We have a guide to pulling. I believe we have a guide to fashion as well on there. But we have a bunch of mini courses that you can learn, like how to do online game properly, how to set up a profile, how to message, how to set up dates, how to actually have a good interaction, how to actually take the girl home, how to run your night from start to finish in night game if you've never been out, what are the key points in day game, etc. So these are a huge resource if you're getting started out in game. And even if you've been in game for a while, there's probably some stuff in here, some of those like overlooked fundamentals that will immediately tremendously improve your game. So I have a course, like a small course in each of those different topics as well. And then we have the archive. So as we're going through questions on these calls, as we're going through questions on the forum, we're going to be clipping some of the best material and putting it in the archive, because a lot of people ask the same questions over and over again. So it's a good chance that if you have a question, it's already been answered, and we're going to give you the best answer we've seen to it, or the best answer we have for it. So you can just get it on demand. You can just search it. So even if it's, maybe the weekly call isn't coming up for a couple more days, you want an answer now, check out the archive. You can get your answer then. And then maybe you can ask me even more in depth on the call, right? So a great resource as well. And then last but not least, we have an online community. This is massively overlooked nowadays. I think that over the past, since roughly the end of 2017, I don't think this has really existed the way it should have. A place where people can really share ideas, discuss things, help each other out, help each other improve, and give feedback. And seeing other guys that are struggling with the same stuff you're struggling with, being able to steal other guys' lines, being able to read other guys' field reports for inspiration, really, really useful. It's one of the things I grew up with when I was learning game, was the online forums. So we've created the old school online forum, which is going to be exactly that. Guys sharing, like some of the best guys, the most dedicated guys sharing their stuff, plus me and my coaches being on that, plus having vetted moderation to keep some of the, the signal to noise ratio pretty good. So Anyway, that community is something I'm very excited about, and so far the posts I've seen have been good on there, and I'm pretty excited about them. In addition, I have something kind of special for you guys on this webinar. So this program is not public yet. You guys are the first to know. I did one webinar last week, and then this webinar. This is the first I'm introducing this at all. Is to you guys who have shown up for these webinars. So this is not publicly offered. It's not out there yet. You're the first. And the price for the mentorship program after the launch, once we get through the launch period, it's going to be $297 a month. But I have a pretty huge discount, pretty huge special for you guys on this particular thing as a thank you for being on here. And, you know, as we're just kind of, we're figuring out, you know, what to do in terms of, basically thank you for you guys. And also we want to offer something special to you guys and figure out how to get the course the absolute best as we can. So we're giving it to you guys in this really small setting, this really incubator period. We're getting really a ton more personal attention from me and keeping it extremely small. So, yeah, just letting you guys know that. And then if you did that for 12 months, it'd be $3,564 for 12 months. That's at the regular price, which we're discounting significantly for you guys. But again, it's not a, you know, it's a high value program. But for you guys, we are doing a 24-hour webinar sale. That might, by the way, that might be a mistaken slide. I think it might be a 3-hour sale. But we're doing a sale for you guys on the webinar in any case. Plus, we're giving you Value Masterclass and the system for free if you sign up with a 12-month membership. Okay, fair enough. Give me 1 second on something here. All right. Well, we're giving you these free. This is $544 in value, which is obviously a significant amount. We're giving that to you completely free. All right. Actually, yeah, that's why I was confused for a second. All right. I'm going to close this slide presentation because I have the wrong slides here. All right. I'm just going to tell you guys what it is. So basically, the normal price would be $297. And then if we have 2 options for you guys. The normal price is $297 once the launch is over. Additionally, if you want extra, if you want more attention than just that, than just the mentorship program, which is already a ton of attention, a ton of feedback, a ton of you know, extras and whatnot. We have a bonus if you want to do a monthly call with one of my coaches, which is a truly personal one-on-one call. That would normally be a price of $597 for the month. But again, we're giving you guys a tremendous discount on that as well. And so, you know, that we're going to give you a pretty huge discount on both of those as well. So what I'd recommend for you guys, check out the, I'm going to put a URL here in the chat since we have the wrong slides up here. So we have here, is it, hang on. Actually, let me do this. Sorry for the clunkiness here. I got the wrong, here we go. Hang on. Let me go to the very end here. Hang on, I need the, okay. So I'm gonna give you guys the URL for it. I'm gonna put it in the chat. The URL for this is toddvmentoring.com. We have a special offer for you guys. I'm sorry that the slides got messed up. I got the slides back from my team and they gave me the wrong slides. But the offer for you guys is this, Todd V Mentoring. Check it out over there. There's a tremendous discount. If you look over there, as you can tell, it's a significant fraction off of the price that it's going to be past the launch. So go to toddvmentoring.com. I put it in the chat. My team can put it in the chat for you guys as well. And so that's that's a special offer for you guys. It's again an incredible savings. All right. So go check it out over there. What I'm going to do in the meantime, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to go through the slides here real fast. And I'm just going to go to the last, if I can go to the last slide, if I even can. Shit, I can't. Okay. Here, I'm just going to go through this just so you guys can see the URL on the screen. If I can get to it. But what I'm going to do for the next 5 minutes is I'm going to take questions on this particular offer because that's special for you guys and because it's a limited time. The offer is actually only for the next 3 hours. That's why that 24-hour slide was wrong. So for the next 3 hours, if you guys want it, check it out. You get the discount. But if you guys have questions about the offer, I'm going to get in the chat and I'm going to answer those questions for the next 5 minutes. And then after that 5-minute period, I'm going to get back to any day game questions you have and then any general game questions you have. So in the meantime, go check out toddvmentoring.com. Check out the special offer. That's for you guys only on here for the next 3 hours. I'll take questions on that, like I said, for the next 5 minutes. And then from then on, we're going to go right back to the general content. So let's get the questions here. Okay. So it says, is there a minimum amount of months required for enrollment? Is it just a month-to-month basis? It's absolutely a month-to-month basis. You sign up, you can cancel anytime. So get on there. You can try it out for a month. If you don't like it, feel free to cancel, etc. And you can actually access the all the archives of courses. You can access the mini courses. You can access all that stuff right away. Try it out for a month. Try the calls. Get on the forum, post on there, and at any time you're free to cancel. You absolutely can cancel at any time whatsoever. And again, you have the two options. You have the option of doing the call with a coach in addition, which I highly recommend. These are really, really extraordinarily good guys in the game and got good resources for you guys. So I'd highly recommend that. But if you want to do it without that, absolutely, the mentorship program by itself is an incredible value and incredible offer as well. So those are the two offers. You have either the mentorship program, which is normally $297, or the mentorship program plus the 1 hour call with the coach, which is normally $597. Again, check out over at toddvmentoring.com. For my team, if you guys can you put up the last one that actually has the URL? That would be useful, so they can actually see it on the screen if you guys can do that. But toddvmentoring.com would be where to go over for that special offer. Yeah, so month to month, you can cancel anytime. Okay. What happens on the bonus coach call? So that's a really good question. So the bonus coach call, it's a one-on-one call. So it's you and the coach showing up one-on-one, and you'll have the same coach over and over again. So you'll have the same coach for each of your calls. So they'll get to know you. They'll work with you. They'll know your sticking points. They'll give you like homework and assignments and work with you on an ongoing basis for whatever is going on. So probably what will happen on each call is you'll go over, whatever you talked about on the previous call, whatever homework you had, whatever you're working on, you'll bring whatever's new to you, and then you can go over it. I know a lot of guys on these coaching calls, they've done things like they send their text messages to the coaches, and the coaches will break down their text and tell them how to text better, what to text particular girls, that kind of stuff. I know some guys have recorded themselves in the field, either audio recording, which is very easy to do. They bring the audio to the coach and will actually break down the specific things you're saying to the girl in your exact interactions, or some guys even gone as far as video and breakdown, so we can do that. Excuse me. You can ask the coach any question in the world. You can do exercises with the coach, sometimes even role play different scenarios. If you're working on, dealing with shit tests, they can give you shit tests and then work with you on how you're passing them, that kind of stuff. If you're having trouble with your opening and continuing off the open, for example, you could talk through an open with the coach, figure out exactly what you're doing, get some finer points. So it's completely personalized. So what happens on each bonus call, and it'd be monthly getting to know the coaches, right? It's dependent on you. It's individual and unique to you guys. And it's completely, it's completely what it is you particularly need. Beyond that, one thing I should say about this program, we're trying to keep it relatively small. So that's why we're doing it as just a 3-hour promotion. And the enrollment is rather limited. But because you guys are among the first, if you guys want to do the calls with the coaches, you guys can actually select your coach too. If you have a particular one of my coaches, JP or Matt or James, if you particularly want to work with them, you can select your coach. We may not have that available as if the program gets bigger and as the program gets bigger. But for now, if you want to select your coach, you absolutely can do that. But yeah, it's a one-on-one, completely personalized call to go over whatever it is that's on your mind. Let's see. Someone said, what's the price? Go check out on the website. It's a massive discount over there at toddvmentoring.com. So I gave you guys the regular price, but go check out the website for the special price for you guys. Someone said, I'm on the program. I can attest to how useful it is. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's very nice. Very, very, very nice, kind words. I'm trying really hard, guys. With that, I'm trying to really, give my all in terms of answering the questions. And then on the forum, I'm getting on there every few days myself and answering the questions. I think, again, I've answered every Ask a Coach question myself, I believe, so far, and unless some have come in the last 24 hours or so. And then, trying to answer and keep the discussion good. I really want that to be a hugely valuable resource and a very active conversation over there. Let's see. We also think people with wingmen, people with the same level. That's certainly something you guys can talk about and you guys can discuss. So that's one of the aspects of community is you can share ideas, you can talk to people, you can potentially even meet up in person. Those are all aspects of community which are really, really huge and really encouraged overall. Will I be one of the coaches? No, unfortunately, I can't be one of the coaches for your one-on-one calls, unfortunately. But the coaches are insanely good, and you will be getting a weekly call with me where I will be answering your questions. So you'll be getting a lot of interaction from me. I promise you that. Did you say online game materials included? Yes, online game materials included. There is a mini course for online game, basically how to get yourself started, how to get yourself from zero to getting generally successful and getting a profile up, getting messaging, getting your photos, etc. for online game, and then also guides to texting and follow up and making plans and all that kind of stuff. So absolutely, online game material is included as well as day game, night game, etc. So basically, the major categories of game, and then also polling and style are there as well. We get to keep the info after the program is done. Well, the funny thing about that is the program is not done, right? This is a program that this is an ongoing program. This is actually my goal for this program is that it's going to be a huge focus of my entire company, is that we're going to try and make this a central piece, and we're going to keep making it better. So as the archive of questions and answers gets better, as the forum gets more active and more populated, if we get huge amounts of people on it, we may actually end up doing more calls more often, different things like that. I want this to actually be something that grows and develops and gets better and better. And I want this to be a primary focus of like my dedicated students. I want this to be like a place for them to come for years to come. So you can keep, so the program is ongoing, and we've committed to keep the program for at least a year. That's an absolute guarantee that we'll be going for at least a year. But my plan is to be, for this to be a permanent fixture, for this to be an ongoing thing that we keep as a huge central part of our entire company. Can you pay by Visa debit? I believe you can. For any, as a try, you should be able to. If you have any payment issues, just email support@toddvdating.com, and they can help you out with different payment options. We have a number of different merchant solutions and things like that. So our credit card processor is very good and takes most credit cards. But if you're having trouble with your credit card, let us know and we can usually help you out with that. So any kind of technical questions like that, email support@toddvdating.com. Okay. If you have any questions that are about your particular situation, like one guy's an alumni asked a question, things like that. Any questions along those lines, you can ask them to support@toddvdating.com. I will say though that this offer is like, because it's a limited time offer and it's a massively discounted offer, we're generally not doing any additional discounts on this discount just because it's already like, look at the website, it's already like massively discounted. So so probably not, even if you're an alumni in this one, although feel free to email us if you'd like, but that's not the plan. On this one, the price is like the best offer we can give you on this one. Let's see. Yeah, someone said, if I sign up now, will I continue to pay the special monthly price forever? Yeah, if you sign up now, and you stay on board and keep getting it, you will continue to, the price is not going to bump up in the future. So if you're on at this lower monthly price, you're on at this lower monthly price forever. That's your locked in rate. All right. So even if, even when the price goes up to $297, you're not paying $297, or for the one with the coach, $597. That's not what you'd be paying. You'd be paying the lower rate. You're locked in at that rate forever. And even if we raise the price in the future, you're locked in. Once you're on at that rate, this is your rate going forward, et cetera. Anybody who comes on later may pay more, but you'll keep the same rate. So you said, so the only difference is a 60-minute call with the coach. Yes, but it's a 60-minute call with the coach every month. It's not one 60-minute call with the coach. This is every single month after month after month. As you continue to progress, you have a free 60-minute. You have a 60-minute call with the coach every single month, right? So that's the additional thing, is do you want to have that extra personal attention? And it's totally fine, whichever way you guys want. Like, If you guys prefer to do the 60-minute call with the coach, I highly recommend it. The coaches are amazing and they get great feedback on their calls and great improvement for their students. Or if you want to do just the straight mentorship program, you're not interested in the call with the coach, or you don't want to spend that much, completely fine. Whichever option you guys like, they're both discounted. It's your preference. I won't be offended either way. It's totally fine. Let's see. Let's see. Can we sign up but have the program start later, like October, November? Yeah, if you want to do that, you can. That's absolutely fine. If you want to, sign up and get started, and then we can work with you on that. If you have a special request like that, I think that's fine. Just email support@toddvdating.com and let us know. So what I would say in that case is sign up and then let us know that that's your intention, and then we'll figure it out. Maybe we just the months in between, we just refund your payment until you actually start officially or something like that. But yeah, we can figure out particulars like that. Anything particular, anything unusual that's particular to you, just email support@toddvdating.com. But definitely let us know, and ideally purchase in the next 3 hours and then let us know so that you don't miss the window for this. And again, you can fully refund your purchase if you don't get started, or if you purchase it and then you ask about a detail and it's not what you like, you can fully refund. I don't have a problem with that, but just try and make sure you get it in within this window, because the bonus deal is ending. So just make sure you get it in time. How long are the coaching calls? So the coaching calls, the group coaching calls that are weekly with me, will be up to 2 hours. Typically, the calls so far have been between an hour and a half and 2 hours, and I've answered pretty much every highly selected question, and then all the questions in the chat for the people that are on there live. So it's been hour and a half to 2 hours for the coaching calls with me, and I expect that will only get longer. So it'll be more towards 2 hours each time going forward is the likelihood there. And then in terms of the calls with the coaches, the one-on-one calls, those are 1 hour calls. So it's 1 hour, absolutely one-on-one, complete, direct, personal attention with my coaches. It says to confirm the one-on-one coaching mentorship is flexible, no 12-month commitment. No, there's no 12-month commitment on this one. It's completely month to month. Stay on as long as you want, cancel anytime, whatever. So you basically each month, we do it, and then if you like it, you stay on. If you don't like it, you cancel. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Question, can this help me if I'm currently in a long-term relationship? I'm in 2 long-term relationships. Yes, I would say so. And then the fact that you're in 2 instead of 1 means this may be actually more helpful to you, to be fair, because there are very few people that are going to be able to direct you with advice to that as well as I can. Not to toot my own horn, but being in multiple long-term relationships is something I do kind of specialize in. But yes, definitely this should be able to help you even if you're in a relationship. A lot of discussion will still apply. You can still ask your questions. You can work one-on-one with a coach if you want to, with that in mind, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, it's very personalizable to that. Yeah, this is fair. Someone said, is it possible to sign up with the coach and then go to the other version in the future if you'd like? I'm okay with that. I'm absolutely okay. In the same way that it's okay to cancel at any time. Like I said, if you're not satisfied, if you get the package with the coach and then you decide to do the package without the coach, I can certainly honor that. I don't have any problem whatsoever with that one. I don't think that's going to happen. I think you're going to be very happy with the call with the coach, and you're going to want to stay on and think it's one of the most valuable parts of the program. But if that does happen, I'm totally fine with that. I don't want you guys to. I don't want anybody to be locked into something they're not enjoying and getting massive value out of. So absolutely, that one's completely fine. You can absolutely go from the coach package to the lower one anytime. The other way around, I'm not so sure about, because that is a special offer with the coaches, and we do have to coordinate with them and that kind of stuff. But if you want to try out a call with the coach, and then if you're you want to go to the lower package for the next month, that I'm completely fine with. If you want to go that direction, that's completely fine. Okay. Yeah, someone asked is this recommended for people that are committed relationship but want to improve their game in general? I think so. I think actually this would be, of the programs I have out there, like every program I have is designed more around guys who are meeting new girls than around a guy that's in a committed relationship. That's a given. But this one would still be very, very good and very useful for someone in a committed relationship. And of the programs I have, this would be one of the better ones for that, for sure. This one and Value Masterclass would actually be a good one for a guy in a committed relationship too. But because this one's so personal and because you're getting your specific questions answered, you can really tailor to you. And especially if you're working with a coach or you can write questions on the forum that are specific to you, et cetera. So there is a lot of scope to tailor this to your particular needs. And it's meant to really grow with you, right? It's meant to be good for you when you're a beginner, intermediate, advanced, whether you're in a relationship, out of a relationship, et cetera. So it's meant to be very flexible that way. So I think it should be good. Okay. And then anyone with payment options, someone mentioned credit card, someone mentioned PayPal, different stuff like that. Any payment options or payment issues, and send to support@toddvdating.com, and we can help you out with in terms of payment type stuff. All right, let me check and see if I have maybe a couple more questions here if they're pending, and then we can go back to game questions. 1 second. Someone said, how are the mini courses different from the system if they are different? So the mini courses are different from the system in 2 ways. Number one, they're not as big, right? They're mini courses, not full course. System's like a mega course. It's a huge course. These are smaller, shorter courses, and they're much more tailored to a specific part of game. So the system is game in general, whereas like, for example, the Daygame mini course goes very specific on Daygame, or the Night Game mini course goes very specific on Night Game. So they are much more specifically tailored and a little bit shorter. They're meant to get you a good result in as fast a time of watching to implementation as possible, basically. But they're not as in-depth as the system. The system is an incredibly in-depth course. If anybody doesn't have it, by all means, system's a great course. I highly recommend it to anybody. But yeah, the system's a very, very in-depth, very intense, deep course. And very, very obviously, for anybody who has a very good course. The mini courses are much shorter versions, but it's a similar style of presentation, similar type of content to the system. Very, very high quality content and a high level presentation, but it's just not as in-depth or as long as the system is. And it's tailored to one specific niche in game as opposed to game overall in general. As someone said, when will the Night Game mini course come out? The Night Game mini course is not coming out publicly. These courses are exclusive to this program. Night Game mini course is not going to be released as a separate product. Day Game mini course, these programs are not being released as separate specific products. They are within this course only. So yeah, the mini courses are only available as part of this. Someone said the system is amazing. Thank you for that. I like to think so as well. I appreciate the kind words. Yeah, so if you want to join but won't be able to start till next month, someone asked that question as well. Just sign up and then let us know, and we can work with that. All right, guys. All right. So I'll circle back around to questions about this at the end as well if any more come up. I'm gonna take a few more game questions though, and then I'll come back around to program questions. Okay. Okay, cool. Let me get to game questions here. Okay, game question. Looking for the women's point of view, what is the psychological process she goes through as you approach her and hopefully bring her home? Things such as feeling things just happen, not feeling slutty to sleep in the same day, and in particular during day game, which should feel different for most women. Okay, so the question is, what's a girl's thought process when coming home with you in general and then specific to day game? In general, the ideal thought process is that there's not a whole lot of thought process, right? You don't want her putting a lot of time and attention and thought to the idea of, oh, I'm going home with this guy. You want her putting a lot more on, I'm having a great time. This guy's amazing. He's so hot. I'm so attracted. This is so much fun, right? If the girl's thinking a lot about the situation, that's already a problem, right? So I'll give you an interesting kind of allegory, or like, I know it's allegory, an interesting metaphor, similar situation for this. And if you guys know who Frank Abagnale was, he was a very famous like forger, very famous like con artist, basically. He's the subject of the movie Catch Me If You Can, if you've ever seen that movie. But basically what he did is he passed fake checks. Like he went to banks and he passed fake checks and made a lot of money by doing so. And he made some of the best checks ever, right? At that time, like most genuine, authentic checks you could ever imagine. But his thought on the process, his philosophy on the process says, if the bank teller even looks at the check, you fucked up. Basically, he didn't say fucked up. He said it in a nicer way. But basically, if the bank teller even looks at the check, you made a mistake. It's the same thing here. So if the girl is thinking about going home with you, she should be thinking these things. Like, it just happened. I don't feel slutty. This feels fine, etc. But really what should be happening is she shouldn't be thinking about it, right? That's the equivalent of the bank teller looking at the check and seeing you made a very good, check. But the right solution is you're doing things so well she never looks at the check. You're doing things so well it's not even a concern for her if she's going home or not or what's going to happen. Her only concern is she's having such a good time and she just wants you and wants to keep you. That's the thought process it should be, right? It shouldn't be about any of these specific things, right? You want to get so a lot of these things like not feeling slutty, it's not a thought, it's a lack of a thought, right? Or things just happened isn't things just happened, it's like nothing unusual is happening. So it's actually the lack of a negative, it's the lack of a bad thought, the lack of fear or trepidation. It's not that there's this active thought. Someone asked this one already. With COVID still being a factor in people's minds, should Daygame approaches be tweaked in any part of the interaction? That's similar to the mask question that someone asked earlier. In general, no. In general, I would still just game as normal. Maybe give a little more distance if someone's wearing a mask or if they seem like they might be like put off or whatever. But generally just game per normal. And if they're going to have an objection, they'll tell you the objection. You don't need to have the objection for them, right? Someone said, wait, Todd, are you saying when we meet a girl, we should text her right away? Or are you saying to wait a day or two before texting? In general, I would try to get your number and name in her phone right away. And then from there, you can text soon after, or you can wait. Okay, so generally, I would text the next day in most cases. But if you want to wait a day or two, you sometimes can, depending on the situation. The reason why I want to text soon is I want to strike while the iron is hot, right? There's two competing factors. One is she just met you, she's excited, you want to text her now, and that says text sooner. The other is you don't want to be needy, you want her to wonder whether you're going to text her at all, and that says take a little bit longer. But the fact of the matter is she's probably not sitting there wondering the whole time. So for the most part, texting right away is probably good. And you can always be a little bit more unavailable or leave a silence in text later on if you're being too needy. So I generally am of the belief that you should text sooner rather than later in general. Not immediately though, like not so soon that it doesn't make sense. Like clearly you parted company for a reason. So texting her 5 minutes later and trying to start a conversation doesn't necessarily make sense in that case, other than just to get your number in her phone. But if you met her in the morning, maybe that evening's fine. Or if you met her in the afternoon or evening, maybe the next day. Or if you met with the idea of maybe meeting up that evening or night for plans, then you want to text her before that time because that's a possibility. So you want to be just reasonable about it. Is it true that you have to escalate slower and invest in the conversation more than in a night approach? It's not true that you have to necessarily, but it's true that in most cases, that will be the smart thing to do. In general, the escalation in Daygame, like I mentioned, will be a little slower. It'll be like a longer, smoother set. And also the escalation will be more logistical and verbal as opposed to physical. So typically it will go that way. But if the girl's escalating on you and coming on to you, certainly you don't need to actively slow it down too much. Let's see. Let's see here. Hang on 1 second. Okay, here. You said cocky behavior like misinterpretation causes shit test, but ironically, one technique for passing shit tests is misinterpretation. You mean like double down on cockiness to pass the shit test? So, kind of, yeah, actually. So cocky behavior. Okay, so confident. There's a difference between cocky and confident, first of all. So confident behavior is just straight across the board, generally good. Cocky behavior is potentially extra good because it gets a reaction, but it's also potentially miscalibrated. So when you're cocky, you run the risk of being miscalibrated. And if you're miscalibrated, you could actually get, you could get a shit test or something that's potentially negative, right? Because you've provoked it a bit. Now, the way of passing shit tests is through misinterpretation. However, misinterpretation should not come off as cocky. If your misinterpretation comes off as cocky, that means it's try hard as opposed to just happening, right? Misinterpretation is not like, hey, I'm trying to make this the case. It's like, obviously this is the case, right? If your misinterpretation comes off like, hey, I'm trying to do this, comes off as cocky, it's bad misinterpretation. So in that case, typically not. You'd like it to be more chill in terms of the misinterpretation. But between doubling down on cockiness and backing down and seeming weak, doubling down would be better. Or between doubling down on cockiness or supplicating, doubling down would be better. But in general, cockiness is not quite as good as if you could have the same frame conveyed slightly more subtly. And it's the unsubtleness that gets you the shit test, not the fact that you conveyed a particular frame. Okay. Okay, question. With instant dates, then bounce to a cafe, then pull home, is there ever any point in approaching pairs of girls or groups? So if you are planning on taking a girl home same day from Daygame, your odds of that happening from a group are tremendously less. Not impossible, but much, much, much less. So typically when you're approaching groups, you're thinking about getting a number, getting a future date in most cases. But if the girl's hot enough, it's still probably worth it. So I would still do it. Also, the thing about getting a number is it doesn't take as long, right? So an instant date takes, your entire day potentially if you end up pulling her home, whereas a phone number can take 5 minutes. So getting a hot girl's number and impressing her friends and having them like you in 5-10 minutes, something like that, or 15 minutes, whatever, is still very, very valuable and very worth doing. And I highly encourage you to still approach groups in daytime. I encourage you to still get phone numbers in daytime, all that kind of stuff. But I don't, but you're not going to be able to pull as often from those, right? There are ways if you have a wingman or if you can bring them to something or you can bring them to a party or something like that, there may be ways. But yeah, in general, you're not going to be pulling them, but you should still do them. Is it bad to approach a group if both or several women are attractive? Is that a real question? Is it bad to approach a group of hot girls? It's good to approach groups of hot girls, please. For me, please approach groups of hot girls. It's good. Please do it. Someone said, thank you for answering his question. You're very welcome. I appreciate it. And thank you for the gratitude. That's very nice. I try to get to as many as I can. Obviously, can't get to all of them, but thank you for that. Daygame question. How much do you recommend us talking about ourselves versus inserting premise, spiking emotions, etc.? It depends. It depends on the nature of the interaction. You want a balance. You want some of both. Now, what the particular ratio is for a particular girl will depend. So if when you tease the girl and spike emotions, she seems to respond really well to it and get into the banter, then maybe you want to banter more with her. If when you're teasing, spiking emotions, that kind of stuff, she seems to be just taking it in and not responding to it, but like not rejecting it, then you should probably do more of talking generally, building value, that kind of stuff, and then go back periodically to spiking emotions and different things that move the conversation forward. And then ideally over time, the reaction to that will get better and better. And that will happen as you build more and more value. This is a messed up question. How do you make a girl your girlfriend after sleeping with her if she doesn't text you after? It's going to be tough. If she won't see you again, it's hard to make you her girlfriend. Or it's hard to make her your girlfriend. Yeah, you probably need to see her again. Sorry about that. I don't have an answer for that one. You need to get in touch with her again. Daygame, any different advice if there's an age gap, mid-40s to mid-20s, for example? No, really, it's pretty much the same as long as there's a plausible reason why you're there to meet them, right? That's the most important thing, is that there has to be a plausible reason why you're there, a plausible point or purpose to having been there. So if you, for example, are 40 years old and you met a girl on a college campus, it's hard to justify why you're on that college campus. And so that can make it potentially awkward. But if you met her in a Starbucks, excuse me, at a Starbucks right across the street from that college campus, you're totally normal to be there at your age. And so it shouldn't be an issue whatsoever. And there you're just a high value, cool guy at your age. So the only thing that the age really matters, or the only thing that makes the age matter in Daygame, is if it's unusual or weird that you're even there in the first place. As long as there's a plausible reason you're there, it shouldn't matter. And the nice thing about Daygame, if you're older and talking to younger girls, is you don't have any of the girl's friends to judge her, or you don't have her worrying about any of her friends judging her. So if she likes you, she can just go with you and you can be that sexy older man for her. So that's completely fine. And it's actually kind of a benefit for Daygame. Do I have any advice for older guys 60 plus? Do your thing. Seriously, do your thing. You can absolutely game into your 60s. I know my dad in particular, gaming into his 60s, was dating multiple girls into his 60s. So it's absolutely can be done. And to be fair, I mean, his game's obviously better than average, and he taught me some things growing up and stuff like that. But like, I know many men with better game than my dad, and he was gaming multiple girls into his 60s and much younger girls, and also having them take care of him and just like stuff like that. Like he was like a kept man by multiple girls into his 60s. So yeah, you can do it. do your thing, learn the skill set, work it, practice it. There's nothing stopping you, and just be very lucky you're not a 60-year-old woman, because your game prospects as a 60-year-old woman would be far less. Um, um, any technical questions? I'm just getting a couple technical questions with payment and program related questions. Just email support@toddvdating.com for any technical questions whatsoever. Anything technical, support@toddvdating. We'll take care of you. Okay. If a girl ignores me over text because I said something too sexual for her, how can I turn that around? Oftentimes it's hard, because that is a number one, it's a mistake, and when you've made a mistake, it's harder to turn it around than when you haven't. And number two, that's a mistake of being a little bit committal. That's a mistake of being a little try hard and potentially pushy. And so for that reason, it can be problematic. But what you want to do is be lighthearted, be fun. Obviously, don't be too sexual with your next one. Sometimes you can say just kidding, or like just fucking with you or whatever, or just fucking around, depending on the context. But the major thing you want to do is just restart the conversation and don't escalate. You're not asking for plans right away when you restart the conversation. You're just trying to get it back going. You're just trying to get a response. That is it. Okay. Someone else said my dad gamed into his 60s. He's still at it. Yeah. It can be done, man. It can be done. It's a nice thing about being a man. It's very, very nice. This is a funny question. How do you deal with the situation where you spot a hotter girl? Do you switch girls without feeling like a dick? Like leaving the set to go do another approach? That's up to you. You have to just weigh the pros and cons on that one and weigh your odds. That's just a risk and reward decision. It's like, how often are you going to close that one versus how often you can close this one, and how hot is this one? And also, can you talk to this one and finish up and then go talk to the other one afterwards? It's a funny question though. It's not really a game question. It's just like it's a problem solving question more than a game question. Cool. Okay. Yes, this is just, I'm not going to read the whole question, it's long, but yeah, it's fine to pick up girls that are 18 to 20 or 32. It's absolutely fine. What else are you going to do? Like, even if she says they flake later or whatever, because the social stigma or whatever, so what? So some of them flake, some of them don't flake. Besides which, girls flake in general. I already said, like, when you get numbers, like, the majority probably are not going to show up on a date. So some girls flaking is totally normal. It's not that outlandish. Talk to the girls you're interested in. Talk to the girls you like. And if you get some flakes along the way, if you get a little bit of a numbers game here and there, that's completely fine. All right. If I graduated a year ago, can I still go to college and approach? Yes. If you're asked, just say you went back to visit a friend. Not a problem at all. Plus, nobody will ask because you look like you're still there. Just say you went back to talk to a professor. You went to finish a project. Who the hell cares? And you probably won't. Again, it probably won't even be asked. Okay, this is a good question here. Which girl should I open when approaching a group, the target or her friends? It doesn't matter, but you do need to engage both within the first 30 seconds most of the time. So you either go group to girl or girl to group. So if you open the girl very quickly, hey, are these your friends? Nice to meet you guys. Or you open the group pretty quickly, oh my God, you're trouble. Or open the group and be like, yeah, you guys are cool. I don't know about her. Something like that. So you want to do something to engage the group and the girl as two separate entities very, very quickly in the interaction. So those are suggestions for you. All right, guys. That's really good for as far as questions for now, because we're running short. Quick reminder for you guys. It's going to be for something like 3 hours only, hopefully from now, I think 3 hours from now. ToddVMentoring.com, special offer. It's a huge discount available to those of you who are on the webinar only. Please check it out. Again, that's for everything in the mentoring program. The calls with me every single week where I answer your questions. The Ask a Coach, where the coaches will be asking your questions. The call with a coach one-on-one if you want to opt in for that one. Which is incredibly personal and highly recommended. The mini courses, which I put a lot of effort into to get those such that they're going to really help you guys out and get you exactly where you need to go in game as quickly as possible. And then obviously the community features, the archive of answers, and then the forum where you can share answers with yourself, with among yourselves, with me, with the coaches, etc. And again, I'm posting regularly on that forum. I'm trying to make it as active and positive an environment as I possibly can. All right, so Thank you guys again for showing up. Definitely go over to toddvmentoring.com. Definitely check out the website. Even if you don't think you're interested per se, go check it out. You might be surprised how good of a deal we are giving to you guys. And again, it's only for the next 3 hours, so definitely get on it. If you do have any technical questions or anything that comes up once we're past the webinar, support at toddvdating.com is your go to. Shoot them an email, and they will absolutely help you out. So check that out. And thank you guys again for being on here. I appreciate doing these. It's always nice to get your questions. Always nice to interact with you guys and to be able to share the knowledge. All right, guys. Thanks again. Check out toddvmentoring.com, and hopefully I will see you again next time.